Welcome to the Revenge Story Times channel. When Sophia told me that her boss invited her on a 3-week business trip to Paris, I smiled and nodded as any supportive husband would. She was thrilled, practically glowing, as she described the amazing opportunity. "It's a huge deal, and you know how much I've wanted to work with Jason on this project," she said, her eyes lighting up with excitement. I pretended to be happy for her. After all, it was a great opportunity for her career, and I would never want to stand in the way of that. But inside, I wasn't as calm as I appeared. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The more I thought about it, the more I started to suspect there was more than just business going on with her and Jason. Maybe it was nothing, but there was this nagging voice in the back of my mind telling me that I couldn't ignore it any longer. I didn't want to accuse her of anything, but I couldn't help feeling uneasy. I had to do something to regain control. So I smiled, gave her a kiss, and told her, "Go ahead, Sophia. You deserve this. I'll miss you, but I'm happy you're going." She was excited, packing her bags and telling me about the networking dinners and the conferences she would attend. It was all part of her career's big break, and I pretended to be fine with it. Once she was gone, I kept myself busy. I went out with friends, spent time at the gym, and even booked a trip to Vegas with some old buddies. But the truth was, I was planning something far bigger. It wasn't just about her being away. It was about us, about everything that had been wrong for so long. Our relationship had slowly decayed, and I had started to feel invisible in her life. She was always busy with work, always too tired for us, and always more focused on her goals than our marriage. I had enough. I wasn't going to sit back and watch her flourish, while I continued to wither. So while Sophia was jetting off to Paris, I made the decision that would change everything. I filed for divorce. I knew it was a drastic move, but I felt it was the only way to get her attention, the only way to shake her out of this perfect little bubble she'd been living in. I was tired of pretending, tired of watching her drift further and further away. I didn't tell her I was filing. I didn't give her any warning. I wanted the shock to hit her hard when she came back. I wanted her to feel the consequences of her actions. When the divorce papers were ready, I placed them on the kitchen counter, clearly visible, and wrote a note in my own hand. "I think it's time for us to let go." Then I waited. The 3 weeks felt like an eternity, but it was time well spent. The whole time, I kept up the act with friends, family, and even Sophia's colleagues. When they checked in on me, I was the calm, supportive husband, nothing out of the ordinary. But behind that mask, I had already made my decision. Finally, the day came when she was set to return from her trip. Sophia called me from the airport, excited and eager to see me. She was ready to tell me all about her trip, about the dinners with clients, and her plans for the future. She was happy, and I was prepared for what was coming. She stepped through the door, suitcase in hand, and then froze. Her eyes immediately locked onto the divorce papers on the kitchen counter. The note I had left was still there, right on top. I watched as her face shifted from confusion to disbelief, her expression slowly morphing into something more hurt and angry. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling as she picked up the papers. "What the hell is this, Alex?" I stood there trying to keep my composure, but my heart was racing. I had no idea how she was going to react, but I knew this was a turning point. "I'm sorry, Sophia," I said, my voice quieter than I expected. "I just couldn't do it anymore. You've been so caught up in your career, and I've been here just waiting. I've tried to pretend it didn't bother me, but it did. I didn't feel like your priority anymore, and I couldn't keep pretending." She stared at me, eyes wide, the hurt evident in her face. "You couldn't wait 3 weeks? You couldn't just let me come home, and we could talk about this?" Her voice was shaking now, the anger bubbling up. "This is what you do after everything." "I'm sorry," I repeated, though I wasn't sure if I meant it. "But I've been hurting for a long time, Sophia. I needed to make this decision, and it wasn't easy, but I needed to do something." She dropped the papers onto the counter and took a step back, as if trying to process everything. "So what? You just gave up on us? After everything we've been through, you give up because of one trip?" Her voice cracked. "I didn't give up on us. I said, my voice quieter now. I just couldn't keep living this way. I needed to make a choice, and I've made it. Maybe it's time for both of us to move on. There was a long silence, broken only by the sound of her heavy breathing. Finally, she spoke again, her voice low and almost calm. I don't know what to say, Alex. I didn't see this coming. I was so excited to come home, to share everything with you. But now, I don't know what to feel anymore. She shook her head slowly, as if coming to terms with everything. I guess this is it then. We're done. That evening, she packed her things in a daze. There was no shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just an overwhelming sense of finality in the air. Sophia walked out of our home, and just like that, our marriage was over. She didn't even ask for an explanation, probably knowing that nothing I said could fix what had been broken for so long. The next few days were a blur of regret and clarity. I wondered if I had made the right choice, if there was still a way to fix it. But deep down I knew I couldn't go back. The distance between us had grown too wide. As I sat alone in the house we once shared, I couldn't help but wonder if Sophia would ever understand why I had done what I did. When she returned from her business trip, she never expected the bombshell I had dropped on her. But life isn't always predictable, and sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that shake us to our core. Sophia's last memory of our marriage would forever be the divorce papers waiting for her, sitting there on the counter, a stark reminder that some things can't be fixed. Thank you for listening. Until the end, see you in the next episode of Revenge Storytimes. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Goodbye.